Right, because the way that I see it is, even if you do all the things, you're signing up for forced or for like tepid compliance.
Starfish.
You're setting yourself up for some starfish
Like,
action.
okay, let's get it over.
Right? Because it's like, okay, I came
I can
up
go to
with
sleep.
I agreed to this, I guess, sure, let's go. And like, let's be honest, that is so far from what I would desire ever that it's like, it's not worth it. Why would I go ahead and do this?
And that's not the kind of physical access, sexual access, physical contact that's going to propel a relationship forward.
Sure. And also, I think that what happens with guys is they end up in a desert and they're just looking for a drip of water. They're just looking for anything.
And that is sad.
And because of that, they accept that as the norm because they don't have all these other things in place to keep their relationship going in a way that they're respected and cared about, and that the women are loved and cherished in a way that they would naturally do this of their own accord.
Enough of that. You know, there's times where it's like, you know, there's a dry spell or, you know, stuff's happening and whatever. But if that becomes, again, that long-term situation where that's what you're used to, then you're like, why are you sitting there just begging for scraps?
Right? Something's got to change if that's the situation. And I think a lot of people, that's why a lot of people end up getting divorced, right? When men are filing finally, because we addressed earlier that 70 to 80% of divorces are filed by women. And if they're college educated, it's 90% of divorces are filed by women. But the number one reason why a man goes ahead and files for divorce, aside from infidelity, is lack of intimacy within the home, right?
Yeah.
So number one and number two reasons both have to deal with intimacy for men. So you can see that it's incredibly important, but when there is a mixed match of expectations and a mixed match of how we prioritize ourselves and each other, you're going to end up with that problem so often where you just end up accepting less and it becomes the norm.
And then when she finally puts out, essentially.
And then it's starfish.
It's just meeting a physical need.
Right.
That's all it's doing. Rather than being part of the, you know, an element in the full spectrum of things that forge a relationship closer. And, you know,
there's a big difference between
trajectory.
Just hitting it
yeah,
and having an emotionally stirring, connecting experience between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Very different thing, which is why like starfish is not acceptable. Like if that's what you're getting, my guy, you probably need to go ahead and move on.
And then you've got like 2-minute Johnny.
Oh my gosh. It is hilarious, right? Because you hear these complaints in the society so much that like dudes don't last or they're not meeting the needs. And it's like, well, here's the thing, guys, when you know what you're doing, things go really well. So take the time and know your woman because women want to know and be known. So know her in all the ways.
Yeah.
And chances are things are going to go great.
But I get it because when there's that dry desert begging for scrap situation, well, yeah, after 2 minutes, it's like, oh, and we're done.
Right. And
like,
then it's just
finally happening.
And then it's just disappointment all across.
But yeah, and then that's just meeting a physical need rather than, you know, this whole like creating an ambiance and an experience for just a time to connect on multiple levels.
Right.
Not just one.
Right. But the thing is that men, sexual intimacy is typically a really connecting experience between him and his spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if he takes his time to enjoy himself and for them to enjoy each other, it's a great thing. And it's really sad when you end up with a situation with the desert. But a lot of times, even if like a woman is not so inclined, but is compliant to in a positive way, usually there's no regret involved. Like usually it's fun and good things happen. And if the dude's really good at it, a lot of good things happen. Right. But the trick is a lot of dudes just don't put in the time to get really good at it.
They're just not super good at it. And worse yet, they don't want to be good.
Right.
because she probably won't appreciate it anyway.
Do you think it's a lack of appreciation, or do you think it's sometimes a lack of experience too?
I think it goes further when both kind of like are in it for the journey to figure it out. Like, I'm pretty sure most people will say that they're like first time, probably pretty bad.
Yeah, because that on average, your first time, you have no experience, you have no idea what you're doing.
Especially if you go into it with with both people with a body count of 0. And you're just like, this is what the hemming and hawing was about? Really? Why?
Yeah. And then you end up figuring it out over time if you're willing to put in the work, like anything else in life.
If you just know this one person and you get to know all the things like that they like, even when it morphs, like, your taste buds change every 7 years. Kind of like that kind of thing. It's like if your different preferences change, you still like in tune to change little things over time. I'm pretty sure we are not the same kind of people in that arena that we were.
Sure. And I mean, I think that's pretty normal across relationships long term, is that your customs and your habits change. And if you are keen to keep up and make adjustments, generally speaking, you'll be better off. But I think that a lot of times people do not take the time to really understand what's going on. And so you end up with those situations.
Yeah, they don't even know themselves, let alone another human being.
Yeah. So we went ahead and hit up the ugly truth, how women just don't like men as much as men like women, because men will just go ahead and go for it, and women will take their time. And unless the guy is of a super high caliber, they're not going to go ahead and make a move.
Well, especially in that time frame of first contact. We talked about it before about, looking up like people and stuff. Like the women use the internet way, way too much. Mm-hmm. Like all of those, like if you get like a TikToker and stuff telling me this person was such a Karen, blah, blah, blah. People will find out where they are, where they live, where they work.
All right. We also went in the difference between men and women's sex drives and kind of how women are choosier than men, generally speaking. So that's kind of the ugly truth as to why elements of the new contract just don't really work. And next, we'll go ahead and explore the impact of the internet on dating. According to an OkCupid study, women found only 5% of men actually attractive, and they found 80% of men to be unattractive, just looking at pictures. We've talked about that a little bit. We know that because of influence in social media, that the goalposts of what a life should be, they constantly move because there's always this influence going on. And now here's the part where we can dig in a little bit. Women are constantly bombarded with attention and offers for intimacy from men. How do you think that goes ahead and affects the women's psyche if they're just constantly getting hit up in their DMs?
Oh, that is going to make you selfish as all get out, like so self-absorbed because you're just constantly like, it's constant attention, you're constant, like almost like adoration. But sometimes, it's even adoration from creepers on the internet. Like people saying creepy stuff on the internet. Like it's mainly dudes and it's like not a good look, but okay. You're just going to think that you're just God's gift to humanity.
You think that'll inflate their egos a little bit?
Oh, just a little.
Just a little bit? Yeah, because if they think that they can get whatever, it really affects the way that they perceive people's advances, right? So going back to the whole don't be creepy on the internet, look at the camera and be like, dudes, do not be creepy on the internet.
Please don't be creepy.
The internet is forever, it turns out. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So let's get into that. Like, what do you think is the deal with women using social media to be a private investigator?
Like the universal truth I'm seeing is women use the internet way, way too much, and men use the internet way too little. They don't use it enough, especially in this way. So like if this one chick is like, oh my gosh, this guy just like did all this stuff and he was like terrible human being, help me find him. all the coven of the internet sleuths will unite and they will find where they live, where they work, and all like emails and whatever. And they will almost form a virtual lynch mob.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip. If you'd like to see more from this podcast, you can go ahead and click here, where the podcast episode is linked in its entirety. If you're new here, you might want to consider subscribing right here. Thanks so much. Make it a great day.